All right, Magic Bird Meepo coming in with a hot deck list. So we played this deck the other day. We went on like a 10-game win streak or something. And so it rocketed us right from Diamond into the Mythic League. And we lost a couple when we got in there. And then we continued to win again. We went on a couple game win streaks. A couple of them were lucks. One of them was a disconnect. But either way, I humbly made it to 177 on the Mythic ladder halfway through the month. Pretty proud of that. I've been working on this deck now for about 2 to 3 seasons, I want to say. So the last couple months. It's a project that I've been working on in addition to blue-white control, and that's actually how I'm climbing the ladders. I'm playing two decks. I know that sounds crazy, right? Whoa. When I feel like the metagame is really shifted to just creature-based decks, I pull out Transmorgify because it just wrecks creature-based decks. I mean, elves would be like, poop, 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 poop. I'm pooping a bunch of elves, right? And then you'll just be like, this is like one of the best cards ever, Divine Purge. And they'll just be like, oh. And you're like, yeah, that sucks, dude. The good news is that that is an amazing card. I run two in the sideboard, which I'll go into much later as I continue down the deck review. But that I definitely want to highlight Divine Purge. If you play white, you play any type of control shell that uses white. It hoses creatures decks, and it hoses artifacts even harder than creature-based decks. The reason is like you hit their lands, man. You hit their lands, you hit all their creatures because all of them are, reduced CMCs. So you hit everything but, the one that enters with 2 cards. Anyways, so this deck is primarily played like a combo and a control deck. If you try and play it as rush tokens, you're going to lose a lot. The reason I say that is because I run 3 March of the Otherworldly Lights. I'm going to highlight this card right now. I think this is one of the best removal spells in white, hands down. It can, for 4 mana, it hits Mirror Breaker. You know what I mean? So, like, that's enough. For 2 mana, it hits, 1 drops. And it's just, it's something that's relevant the whole game. And I'm not going to lie, I have done it for 10 on an Ulamog. Yes, I have Otherworldly Light for 11 mana onto an Ulamog that my opponent cast. And hey, got rid of it, and I won the game. All right, so here's the typical play pattern. Is that we go 1 into 2 to raise the alarm. Okay, so like you want a Legion's Landing and a Rest in Peace, but if you don't have the Legion Landing, it's not that big of a deal. But this play pattern, Legion Landing, raise the alarm. On their end step, you flash in the 2 1/1 tokens, right? And then on turn 3, you attack with your tokens, play a land, okay, and then Transmorgify. Now, this is the main part of the deck, okay? This basically, all this text, look, see this? Says a lot of stuff, right? But basically what it says is remove something from the game, either your opponent's creature or your creature. As a matter of fact, the game even asks you if you want to hit the token. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, of course I do. The reason I say that is because there's no creatures in the deck. There's absolutely no creatures. Everything is a token. Everything is a token except for 4 creatures. There's only 4 creatures in the deck. So we Transmorgify our token straight into these guys, which is Elish Norn. Boom. Wipes their board. Makes your tokens really big. Awesome. We're cool with that 9 times out of 10. Usually that wins the game. Sarah's Emissary. Creature-based decks. Protection from creatures. I've also won off some weird stuff like protection from sorceries, protection from instants. That's the number 2 mode that you pick, and you have to be aware. Like if you're playing against a control deck, I mean, the best thing you could pick is instant because they can interact with you in every phase, right? If you're not worried about their creatures, then the only other thing that they can do is like a sorcery or an enchantment or something to get rid of it. So it's more protective. I don't think I've ever won off of land. Card's silly. It just wins the game. That's it. Like there's no way for goblins to remove a 7/7 that's probably a 9/9, or an 8/8 by the time wedding announcement has flipped. So we'll go into that more in a minute. But the main play of the deck is that, and of course that's your nut draw. The Legion's Landing, raise the alarms, Transmorgify, turn 3, I win. Hey, it happens probably like 10%, 15%, maybe 20%. If you were to increase the Legion's Landings and really focus on that combo aspect, then you could probably increase the percent on that. But honestly, it's much more of a glass cannon build. That's much more combo. And I really wanted this deck to run both lines of both combo, control, but also once I resolve my control pieces or my main spells, I win. Like, go ahead and tap out, please. Please. Just please tap out so I know I have a clear Transmorgify. You know what I mean? Unless they're going to pact and negation. Thumbs up if you've ever been pact and negation, and write a comment because it's terrible. It's bad. All right. So, yeah, the control aspects, you're running the Lightning Helixes. You're running that. You know what I mean? You're running the Divine Purges. You're running this. I mean, this is great. Shadow Skull, yeah, is amazing. You're running, not the Transmorgify, which I have used as a removal spell before. And then Burn Down the House. This is probably the best card in the deck that was relatively new to it. I have won off this so much, both modes. If you watch any of my videos, you will see this card perform, and I highlight it. I mean, I've cast Burn for 5 after a Teferi just to clear Teferis. You know what I mean? I don't care. My tokens are coming back next round with Wedding Invitation and Fable. You know what I mean? I'm getting another token at some point. Not worried about it. Or you could create 3 1/1 Red Devil tokens. And with Intangible Virtue out, your tokens get +1/+1 and haste. So these guys very regularly could be like 3/3s. So there's 9 points of power on the board with vigilance. And by the way, if they die, you're taking 1 for each one. So that's another way that the deck can win. Another control piece was the Wandering Emperor. Probably the best 4-mana removal spell that's played in the format. I think she's amazing. I think 2's the right number for this deck. But if you're playing other formats or even historic format, 3 is very common. And 4, if you're really into like that blue-white Planeswalker, I can't wait to get Pithing Needled. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing that game, then yeah. By the way, I should probably craft a Pithing Needle. Yeah, we'll get there one day. Anyways, so moving on. I have to talk about the lands for a second because the lands actually win like, I don't know, at least a third of your games. Easy, just your lands. So Castle Arvindale, it's a mandatory for the deck. So it's make a dude. 4-mana tap, make a dude. You know what I mean? Like you can use that on defense. You can use that to create a token on their end step to Transmorgify. You get it. This is an amazing removal spell. The channel mechanic is broken. It basically says can't be countered. 4 damage is what it says. Discard this, can't be countered. Den of the Bugbear. This thing makes tokens when it attacks. Welcome to the team. Card is awesome. Cradle. This is the newest land addition to the deck. I put 1 in because I realized how broken the channel mechanic is. So this is like a non-counterable 4-mana on their end step. Make some dudes. And then Transmorgify because they tapped out. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Let's do it. And then you got your full set of just your lands. which is like, your Sacred Foundry and your Needle Pathway. And then I want to highlight this guy for a second too, Forsaken Crossroads. I have it at 3, but it's basically like a scry land, but it can come into play untapped. You know what I mean? Like, you either scry because you don't need to and it's turn 1, or you can have it come into play untapped if you're on the draw, which it's awesome. I like it. I ran 3. There's other spots for utility lands. If you don't have those, go ahead. Craft whatever you'd like. So we run 3 wedding announcements. So stacking wedding announcements is very, very powerful. I mean, sometimes you're just like, yeah, I'm not going to attack, and you make 2 dudes because you had 2 wedding announcements out. Oh, and by the way, they just became 2/2s or potentially 3/3s, or if intangible virtues out, they become 4/4s. You get the idea. So I'm not going to go on too much longer. I think I explained the deck pretty well. Some notes that I want you to take away with this after you hit that subscribe, after you hit that like, because these decklist videos take work, and I appreciate you, and thank you. It's very strong against creature based. Okay. Sideboard. When you're going against creature decks, you want to go up on the control items in your sideboard. Right? So you go up on your Authority of the Council, so they enter tapped, and you gain a life. Good against red. Devout Decree. If they're playing like, red or black or lilies or anything, you're just like, hey, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to scry. I only run 1 in the board. Fateful Absence, I believe I run 2. This is, again, against Planeswalker type decks. You're going to go up on control with those. So Rest in Peace is all these like graveyard strategies. You play Rest in Peace, you set it, you forget it. Cool, man. Croxa, he's really, really good, dude, but why don't you just go ahead and discard him into exile? Yeah, I'll take 3. That's fine. I'll discard this land. Very common. Or Phoenixes, Arc-like Phoenixes on turn 2, they like really just dump into their graveyard, and you're like, turn 2, Rest in Peace. I love it. If you don't have it in your sideboard as a white, you should. Fry, I kill Teferi. That's what this says. Teferi dies. If you don't have this in your sideboard in Historic, you should. Fateful Absence, I kill it. 1 more Intangible Virtue if we go heavier into the creature strategy, which I'll talk about more. Lightning Helix, I need to gain life and kill stuff. Divine Purge, I was talking about how great it is. Absolutely. So we go with 2 History of Benelias to up our token strategy. You don't have to crash those. I know those are mythic rare. You can replace those with the Wedding Announcement or an additional Fable if you choose to. And those are all kind of like what you sub in, sub out against what you're fighting against. But the notes I think that I started to say in the beginning is that creature decks, you want to go up on the control, and then you want to go down on your tokens a little bit. So like you cut Forbidden Friendship, like one of your Transmorgifies and one of your Sarah's Emissary or your Elish Norn, depending on what type of deck you're doing. So that way you just get a couple more, like, I'm going to slow you down, and you have the inevitability. Against control decks, fry the Teferis. Bring in your History of Benelias. Really tax their counter spells. You want to be like doing something every turn, and you want every card that you draw to just be like something that puts something on the board. You know what I mean? Because they'll like board wipe with 2 creatures out, and then you'll get another creature because of the redundancy effects of Wedding Announcement and then Mirror Breaker. So, right. Excellent cards. Cool. And Divine Purge, you don't really care if you hit your tokens because, you're getting more. And then I have 1 extra Wandering Emperor if they're trying to be like, big creatures, you know what I mean? Or and another March of the Otherworldly Light. So that concludes the sideboard and strategy for the deck. If you appreciate this, please let me know. Please subscribe. Please share. Get my name out there and help me out. Thanks. I will see you guys in the next one.